Hey, deserving listeners, Single Life, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Keep in mind that everything I say in reaction is completely speculative based on very little information. Let's watch.
How are you?
So happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you. Mm-hmm. You look beautiful. Mm-hmm. You okay?
You know me, there's nothing wrong with crying. She's happy to see him, she's crying. That's great. She's feeling feelings, totally fine. And I think this is another indicator that she is pouring a lot of need into this relationship before she knows if it's viable or not. Nothing wrong with that, unless when it doesn't work out, which this is not likely to work out. I mean, most dating relationships don't work out. It's just one of those things. It sucks, but it's just one of those things. And so I think she's potentially heading for disaster. This is another indicator. On the flip side, if you're him and you're in need of someone really loving you, he comes across like a very secure guy, but we don't know. And most people are walking around with a lot of insecurities. So if you were into someone kind of, but you were unsure about whether or not you wanted to date them, you had some good moments, some bad moments, and then you see them in the airport and they're so happy to see you. They're so emotional. They're just like, oh, and then she starts to cry like, I just love you so much, or I'm just, you're the best. It feels very gratifying. It feels very, now, if you're not into Natalie, this would scare you a lot, right? But if you're into her, or you're mostly into her, and she is so loving and needy and holding tight, then it can make you feel like, wow, like I don't think I've ever had someone that felt this way about me. It makes me feel special. It makes me feel needed. It makes me feel secure because look how much she loves me. You know, the previous partners I've had, sure, they loved me. They didn't cry when they saw me in the airport. So it can be deceiving. It can be love bomby, if you will. And if you have insecurities and you've come out of some relationships where you were hurt, this could be seductive.
I'm so happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too.
I feel stressed, I feel nervous, so many stuff on my mind, and I'm not in if he's just not serious about me.
He would be weird to be serious about you. It'd be fine if he's serious about you, but he's not likely to be serious about you because you've only dated for 3 total days. So I don't think, plus you had a massive fight. I mean, really, you had 5 fights, 5 very uncomfortable moments, plus 1 really big uncomfortable moment that we saw on camera, so goodness knows what had happened, really. So you hear that language.
I have so much fear in me, I can't.
You know, she has an ability to cut to the core. Think about Angela and other such folks on the show where they're not able to sift through it. They are suffering a lot, but they seem extremely rigid to their point of view. And Natalie, at times, she can kind of reveal or notice her situation, and so she's noticing that she's really afraid, and that is at the core of all this, is a deep fear. To some extent, a part of her is convinced that no one will ever love her. That's part of the syndrome that I think she suffers from. I don't know if she suffers from it, but yeah, that feeling of fear, just, will he love me? Will he abandon me? Will he cheat on me? Does he love me now? Is he going to use me? Is he using me now? Does anybody love me? Am I good enough? These are the schemas that plague people who were treated with abandonment, with neglect, with abuse, with betrayal when they are young.
Welcome to Arizona.
See that smile? I mean, it's good. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. It's not pathological. It's just noticeable in terms of what I'm talking about. But that face could be an indicator of he's just like, wow, she's really into me. Not from a narcissistic standpoint, but from a, I mean, it could be, but I don't think it is. It could be a sense of security, a sense of, well, surely she's not going to leave me like the previous partner did.
Oh my God. You know, 2 weeks was like, oh my God, so hard.
Was it?
So hard.
I think
And also the, I don't want to say childishness, but the youthfulness of her love and expression could be an indicator of early childhood issues. That is how it feels to her potentially. Now, she could also just be kind of quirky and youthful. Something wrong with that, but it's all kind of in that zone of arrested development, early childhood issues. The way it feels in this moment could be romantic and sexual, but it also could be primitive, early life experiences of just like, oh, daddy's home, and you just hold on to his leg.
you'll really like Arizona. So, what do you think about meeting my son
Okay.
and my ex-wife?
That's got to be a production thing, right? I don't think Josh would. I mean, unless Josh. So wait, if I didn't know any better, I would say Josh is very serious. I mean, he's introducing to his family. And when I first heard that, I thought, is that a production thing? Or is it a him thing that he's like, well, I'm on a show? I don't know. I never know. I usually don't suspect that. And I don't even think it's usually true. I'm guessing production might kind of push in a direction. But anyway, but now we're hearing that he's going to introduce to his child and to his ex-wife, which is it's one of those things that you do when you're getting serious, right? So interesting. Also, I just can't imagine that going well. But I don't know. There's a chance that she will have her ups and downs, Natalie, and Josh will just roll with it. I've talked about this profile before. I've treated couples like this before, where you have someone who presents like Natalie and has the ups and downs, severe ups and downs, and has severe reactivity, vacillates between idealization and hostility and anger and verbal abuse. And yet the Josh side of the equation is like, hey, I see through it. I know that she's in a bad mood. It's not the real her. That's when she's being hostile. I know that she's just triggered, and I'm okay with that. I don't take it personally. It's not the best, but, I have enough confidence and security that when she goes into that mode, I just, I listen, but I don't really take it in. So, maybe this relationship will work out. I mean, after that last fight, I was like, well, that's the end of it, right? But now I'm wondering, because I have been speculating about the possibility that his personality is almost perfectly matched for her. Not to make a healthy relationship, but to make one that will go beyond the first phases that we haven't seen Natalie go through yet.
I don't want to meet your ex-wife. George.
And let me clarify, I'm not saying that they're doomed to have an unhealthy relationship. I'm just saying that it might be healthy, it might not be healthy, even though Natalie, with Josh's help, is able to progress to a different stage of relationship. Maybe even different than Mike, deeper than Mike, more secure than Mike. So that's what I'm saying.
We have an agreement, her and I, that before we introduce my son to strangers or other people, we have to meet them first. What?
It's really smart. Yeah. And you don't have to do it that way, but it certainly will cover your bases, right? If you're, and plus, when it comes to your kid, I don't know how old Josh's kid is, but particularly if they're younger, you don't feel that excited about having your former partner, your ex, dating randos and introducing those randos to your kids. So it sounds like Josh and his former partner have a good enough relationship that they're not cut off from each other. They're working with each other. That's a good thing to see.
I hope that Natalie really understands this dynamic that I have going with my ex-wife, Candace. That's just how it is in my life.
Yeah, so Josh is hoping that Natalie will understand. I don't know if she will. This is one of those things it's already triggered her. She was, Josh, I can't. And then he reminds her, she knows that he has an ex-wife, that he's been in a relationship prior. And then she gets all sullen. Let's rewind that.
We have an agreement, her and I, that before we introduce my son to strangers or other people, like, we have to, like, meet them first. What?
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know why I get surprised when it happens every time. I'm just like, yeah, well, did we think that Natalie somehow had 5 years of therapy in between the last scene and this scene? So, and you just want to tell Natalie, like, well, what would you rather have heard? That Josh is completely cut off from his former partner and they hate each other? I almost think that Natalie would rather hear that, honestly, even though that would be a red flag. It's not an indication of something problematic, but if you meet someone and they are completely at odds with the other parent of their kid, that is a red flag of something. There's a variety of things. It could be completely due to the former, the ex of your partner, but it often indicates a high level of conflict, that they were unable to work out, or they didn't value the need of connection, and that personality traits, or this, the set of personality traits that led to that conflict, the person that you're dating probably still possesses, and thus you're likely to engage with that personality and conflict with it. One of the best things you can ever hear on a first date is, or whenever you're first dating someone, is that they're friends with all of their exes. And I find that a lot of people don't want that. And I think, again, what do you want to hear? You want to hear that they've burned all those bridges and they hate all of those people and all those people hate them? Like, if they're still friends with all their exes, that says that the breakup couldn't have been that bad, right? And they can't be that bad, because even though it didn't work out with these people, they still like each other enough to be friends. I mean, that's a huge green flag, really.
Why are you not staying in your house?
Because my daughter's mother is super protective of my daughter.
That is in your house now?
Yeah, she lives with me when I'm here, yeah.
So we see anger building, disapproval. I don't know if you caught that, but she's going to be staying at a different house near where he lives, because he lives with his kid, and the other parent doesn't want randos living with their kid, which makes total sense. And so Natalie's going to be staying in a different place, and she's upset. I'm just thinking, why are you upset? Can't you see through? I would understand having a feeling, right? It's okay to be like, oh, that sucks. But again, what would you rather have? That Josh is an incredibly irresponsible person who just invites people that they've dated for 3 days into their house to have, 24/7 contact with their child. I mean, who knows who you could be anybody, right? So it's just completely rational and normal, but she's sullen and hurt and upset. And if it gets beyond a certain threshold, she'll start to punish him. So let's see what happens.
I came to a man to see his home. I flew like, I don't know, whatever hours, and he's taking it to Airbnb. Like, I feel like he's not ready to share his life with me. So he like...
Right, so this has come up a number of times, that unless it's full devotion, and this applies to a lot of people we watch on the show, whether it's Ed or Angela or others, anything other than full devotion, right? So with Angela, it's little bits by little bits. And then eventually she gets to a place where she wants him not to have an Instagram, right? So it's control, and it's in that vein of wanting to fully control an individual, abusive cycle. With Ed and with Natalie, it's a little different. It's akin to it. We might put Ed sort of in the middle there, and then Natalie's a little bit over here, where it's in, I would call the abuse area, but it's farther away from Angela than Ed is. Anyway, that for her, like with Mike, when I reviewed that first season with Mike and Natalie, she wanted full devotion. Anything other than that is a sign that you don't really love me, essentially. And so she goes to Mike and she's like, let's have kids. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And she's like, let's get married. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Let's get you to the States. Let's do all the things. And she's like, well, I want to get pregnant now. And he just landed in Ukraine. And I think it was the second time that they had seen each other in person. I'm not sure about that, but it was early. And he's like, huh? Well, now? No. Like, let's get you to the States soon and then get married. And yeah, absolutely. I want kids. That's a huge goal of mine in my life. I'm so glad we're on the same page. And because he said he didn't want to get her pregnant right now, that was an indicator that he wasn't fully invested in her. Loved her to a point, but that's not the way rational people would see it. What they would see is, if anything, he loves you more than someone that he would just play flippant with, right? That he wants to play it right. He wants to go through the steps in a solid way so that the relationship can last. Plus, he wants to be there when you're pregnant. He wants to be there for the ultrasound. He wants to be there for the birth, because if she gets pregnant in Ukraine and it takes a while, he might not even be there. And so she's doing it again, that she's confusing rational boundaries that indicate that he's a responsible parent and a good person and a person that has a good relationship with his ex-wife. She sees it as an indicator that he doesn't really love her and is going to get hurt by that and then is going to get angry and hostile, I'm guessing.
Like, he's kind of hiding me from his house. What is that? It's like bull. Oh, look!
A crib as well.
A crib.
It was so nice of you to find for me this beautiful place
Yeah.
with baby pet. I feel like I'm tired and we had a long day and I had a flight,
Okay.
Thank you for the day.
Of course.
So she is wanting to punish him, I think, and is also trying to be nice-ish. So she walks up to him. So first she doesn't want to hang out with him. And fine, she's tired, whatever. But then she gets up to kiss him, and she just presses her face. Let's watch.
I feel like I'm tired and we had a long day and I had a flight,
Okay.
Thank you for the day.
Of course.
Oh, God damn. If you're not going to kiss someone, then just don't kiss them, I guess. But don't go through the motions. And it's like, if you don't want to high five someone, don't half-ass it. Like, do it or don't do it. Kiss someone or don't kiss. Don't half kiss someone. That's incredibly, this is what people would call passive aggressive. I might apply it there as well. She wants to get revenge on him. She wants to be hostile. She is trying to hide it because she doesn't feel safe, or she might feel ambivalent about whether or not it's okay to do so. I don't know. And so she's not giving eye contact. She's moping. She's pouting. And then she does that. We've never seen that before, that right there. We've seen other kisses, right? The internet went berserk when Asuelu and his mom, and it looked like they kissed on the lips, which would have been fine, by the way, especially when you think about all the cultures of the 8 billion people on this planet. Some children and their parents will kiss on the lips. Americans are so nuts about that. It's like, ew. I mean, what do we think is happening? Asuelu and his mom are having sex? I mean, what's wrong with people? It's like Jiminy Crickets. Like, they kissed on the lips. I kissed my mom on the lips. I kissed my aunt on the lips. I don't know. It's just a thing we do. It's not unusual. I guess it might look weird to people who lack affection in their lives. But then when you really look at it, they actually kissed, really close to each other, which is also okay. Anyway, so we had that scene, which I still have feelings about, obviously. And then we have this scene. Have we had another weird, cringy kiss scene? I don't know. Remind me in the comments. Have we had another one?
I'll see you in the morning.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
I know another cringy kiss scene. It was the one with Ben and Mahogany when they're on that dock thing, and he just envelops her. Good times. 90 Day Fiancé. You always deliver, right?
Today is not the way I expected it to be. I came to Arizona, I'm not in his house, but I am meeting his ex-wife. Confusing.
She's looking for signs that he is really into her. He is giving signs up the wazoo that he is introducing you to everyone in his life, his ex-wife, his child, his family. What else are you looking for? I mean, those are humongous signs. Most people in Natalie's shoes would be like, whoa, we barely know each other. Like, slow down there, champ. This is our 4th date. I don't need to meet everyone in your life, because for a lot of people culturally, what the stage she is at is months into a relationship. But because of her relational trauma, she can't see that. She can only see the indicators that indicate danger. It's sort of like you're on a plane and you are afraid of flying, and there's a little noise or something, or a little bit of turbulence, and you just become convinced that the plane's going to crash because of the hypervigilance and the anxiety, the phobia. But if you're rational, you would pay attention to all the other things that are happening on the plane that indicated everything's fine. Most notably, look at the flight attendants' faces, because if they're calm as a cucumber, cool as a cucumber, then in all likelihood, everything's fine. You sort of look at them and they don't even register that noise or that other thing, or the plane is still in the air and there it's not plummeting. There's a lot of signs that everything's going okay. So, but when you're hypervigilant and you have a phobia, you pay attention to any indication that could be possibly interpreted as the precursor to your worst fear. And so her worst fear is abandonment, and she's hypervigilant, she's focused, preoccupied. And so she's only focusing on these extremely dubious signs, so to speak, that she's about to be abandoned. And as I always say, when she does that and she gets overly hurt and overly scared and then overly hostile, abandonment is way more likely, because Josh or anyone else is more likely to leave because they feel like they're being attacked and blamed and getting all this criticism that doesn't make any sense. He's doing a lot to try to prove to her that he's into her, I think. All right, well, if you didn't know already, we have merch, and I'm also on Cameo. You can check the links out below if you want. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.